Okay guys, I've got over 70 videos from Axpona, so it's very hard to do a best of show report, but I'm going to give it a try. Stay tuned. Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Big endeavor here, trying to wrap up amazing weekend in Axpona where there's over 200 rooms. I'm exhausted. I just came back for a few days, went to Archestrated to check out my Airbnb, make sure one of the things I'm buying from Axpona is gonna fit in there. And then also I'm off to New Orleans. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with my mother with a terminal illness, gonna go visit her. And then I'm off to Malaysia for a show, then Dallas for a Popori install, then back to Bakersfield, California for a Bach, and then Munich, and then after Munich, looks like I'm going to be visiting Via Blue among other companies. I'm living out of a suitcase, living in hotel rooms, so I got very limited time. I'm going to do this mostly off the cuff, but because the show is so big, I jotted down some notes, so I apologize in advance for referring to those things. But let me just give you the overview. Actually, this is just my wrap-up report. I actually have more than just me. I've already filmed a wrap-up report with Carl from 3MA. I always do wrap-ups with him. We filmed that in my room yesterday. I got to get that out. Also, we did a whole Zoom with all of my members, well, the members that could attend the Zoom and that were at Axpona. They dialed in, including Ralph Karsten, for the first time, is on my channel, a legend in the hobby, and he's got some very amazing feedback on the potpourris, among other things, and his amps were being used in the potpourri room. This was his first chance to hear it. You're going to want to hear what he had to say. And then the Bach, the DRC2, the debut of that desktop system. I got plenty of content separate for that. And yeah, just to give you a little bit of overview, I do represent the Bach. I don't represent Popori. You have to go through Mike Sweck to buy it. I'm just a customer at this point. And these are on loan to me. These are just a demo prototype model. They're working on a production model. This is what I'm actually going to buy and have as my permanent speakers, but I've been able to test them. The WR2s, which you saw at Axpona, those are going to my friend Doug, and he loaned them to me prior to the show. And more and more sales of potpourri, but I'll get to that in a minute. But just to give that disclaimer, Bach is what I represent, Via Blue, and Blue Jeans cable. If you have any need for those, let me know, but I also want to disclose that in advance. I want to concentrate mainly, though, I will talk about those in a little bit, but want to concentrate on the entire show because there was so much innovative at this show, and that's really why you go to this show. It's not for sound quality at all. As you saw, if you were watching all my videos, I did an install video of the potpourri and Bach in the room with Mike Sweck, and I help him calibrate the room. And I have never heard, when you do slap, the slap echo is one thing, but ringing, like metallic ringing in the walls. And then sure enough, we were tapping the walls and you could hear the metallic structure behind it. And actually, Michael Amster with Linkwitz, he was helping the Linkwitz room. He's in my membership group. You've seen him on the channel. They also had the same problem, and they understand that the walls at that hotel are constructed like that. And so everybody had that problem. And every room had that problem, among other, sometimes even worse problems with the normal bass modes. This is not a show, I'm going to tell you in advance, where you go to listen for sound quality and judge the gear on sound quality. I've gone to all the shows. I go to every show. This is the worst one so far for sound quality. On top of the fact, it's the busiest show and the toughest to get the sweet spot, and there's lots of noise, people talking. So this is not a show so much for listening. And I even said to Doug as we were going around, this is probably the highest percentage of my videos where I did mostly looking at the gear, talking to the people, than actual music clips, because it was hard to get the sweet spot, number one, but even so, I did not enjoy sitting there for very long, to be honest with you. It was more, for the first time, it felt like work. And then once it feels like work, I'm out of there. So it was more about focusing on the quality of gear. And there are some exceptions I'll get to, but in any case, it was a great show for innovation. All the best products and products you don't see at other shows with 200 something vendors, you're going to see here. And it was amazing. Well-run show. Like I said, the hotel is not the best, but it needs to be a big hotel like that to absorb all the people and vendors. So kudos to the staff there. Went really smooth, at least otherwise from the room issues. It was a well-run show. And the elevators, that's another big problem. Other than those two things, great, well-run show. Now, getting to the things that matter. Sound quality. Well, let's talk about the innovative things, because right off the bat, before the show even started, I was peeking in, seeing what's innovative, what are people doing. And the thing that blew me away right off the bat, it was in a YouTube short of mine, was the Auer Acoustics, where they basically created a room within a room. I saw a shop vac and I heard saws going off and I smelled the air of construction like I was at my Airbnb. I'm like, who is constructing something? I go into the room and they're actually creating a room within a room. Now, I don't know how they blocked off how hot it would get in that room, because they're blocking off even the air vents, which probably helped with the noise floor issue. But I didn't go during main time when it was busy, but I can imagine that might have been a problem. But the other thing is, I think they technically cheated, because I know Mike Sweck said you couldn't remove the big armoire desk that was in the room. They said you cannot remove it. Well, that room removed it, and it was just a room within a room. So whether they cheated or didn't cheat, I don't care. I'm giving them an award for never before seen, shop vac, total construction within a day, room within a room. That was amazing. Okay, so big props to Auer Acoustics. And then on that same note, look, I've always said the biggest litmus test for a review is if somebody puts their money where their mouth is. You can wax poetic all you want with all this jargon about how you like something and whatever, but if you just send it on its way, it can't be that great, especially if you can afford it. And in this case, I'm spending my money. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I am getting the RD Acoustics room treatment. It was kind of a diffuser looking design, a traditional diffuser circular type pattern, three-dimensional, but the blades actually had a absorber type material, which is ideal for open baffle speakers and any speaker really, but especially ones that radiate to the back where you put this on the back wall. Having an absorber material is really great, and it not being traditional insulation that is not safe to inhale, not safe to touch usually. This is a composite. You can even buy that composite material on its own, make it into an absorber flat, and put a picture on it. That was really innovative. So this is the type of company and innovation I come to these shows to show you guys. That's how I found Poporis. That's how I find all of these niches. Bach. I find these things by going to the shows and not just concentrating on the big rooms that get me the metrics. In a way, I'm actually defeating myself by doing 70 plus videos at one show, because YouTube looks at it as 70 videos. Not all of them can be watched by everybody. It diminishes my algorithm for, per view, per video. But I don't care. And also, I don't get any money for copyright stuff as well, because I do music clips. But I don't care. This is more important in the long run, is to bring you all these rooms, these ones that are off the beaten path, these people like the Fourier transform speaker. It didn't sound the best. I had my frank feedback, but it's not a finished product yet. You can see the evolution just from last year in Seattle. This is the kind of stuff I like to bring you, and this is why I go to the shows, not to see the same brands over and over and over set up and stare at a wall. So I hope you enjoy that type of coverage, because that's what I'm going to keep giving you guys. And RD Acoustics, they're not only cool on that front, I'm buying them, and lots of my friends immediately hit me up and said, count me in, I want to get them too. So I will actually, I've already talked to the guys, I will become a dealer for that. That's the first thing to tell you guys is RD Acoustics, I'm going to become a dealer for it, because I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and enough of my friends want it. It's crazy. I learned my lesson with Popori. I think I was responsible for over $400,000 in sales in 2 months. I'm not a dealer for Popori, as I said, but I think I'm going to start, obviously, with the Airbnb. I'm going to start functioning more in a dealer role to get my friends and people that are in my membership group, and anybody that's third party that's interested in the same things I'm interested in. You can go through me for some of these things. I'll disclose a lot more of that as it evolves. It's a dynamic idea right now and target, but just an FYI on that front. RD Acoustics, I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I think I'm going to represent them. So props to them. And then again, on that front, Popori, I have the Poporis. I'm not a dealer, but also in there was the Bach, which I did some demos. But what was more important was getting Ralph Karsten's feedback. He had seen the specs on the Popori and was definitely interested in hearing them because he thought it would be the holy grail of speakers if it matched these specs, especially the efficiency. Him being an amp designer really was interested in that efficiency. And I'm going to release a separate video with Ralph's feedback on the Poporis. So I'm not going to talk too much about it. You've heard my reviews, and then I'll talk about these in a future video. But that led to definite sales. Even Clayton Shaw with Spatial wants to carry them in his dealership up in the Northeast. There's tons of stuff. New buyers of this. So, and I'm going to be carrying an install of the Popori soon. So not going to spend too much time there. Also the DRC2 with Edgar, because I represent that, the desktop system collaboration with Odyssey, creating that they have the best planar driver in the world, or arguably one of the best. That was blowing people away. I'll have separate content on that. So a lot of people are like, why didn't you upload the stuff from Popori and DRC2? It's coming, okay, guys? It's not that I've soured on any of those things, but I don't like to overdo it with the stuff I represent. I like to be more fair to everybody and find stuff that I would like to represent. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of things that are on my radar, purview for potentially owning. And one of them was the Magnapan sub that Wendell Diller is doing. He called it a planar sub, and I kind of told him that's not really, could confuse people because it wasn't planar drivers, it's pistonic drivers, but it's meant to be used with planar speakers, or probably would work well with electrostatics because it's 4 8-inch drivers, a little bit faster than the big drivers you normally see in subs. And that AB demo, I have a separate video released on that. You've got to watch that. I mean, guys that are still, there's a desperate small percentage still fighting DSP, still fighting active crossovers, still fighting objective measurements. Let them bury themselves with more and more dogmas that just eventually leave them in the dust, because that was as clear as day of an AB demo as I've ever heard. You heard it live. You heard other people. Everybody that goes to a show and sees Danville signal processing now with Wendell Diller and those subs and the active crossover versus the passive, it is a no-brainer. Okay, guys? Same thing you get with the Bach even more so with the spatial cues and all the crosstalk cancellation. But all of these companies on the front lines of doing stuff that's kind of at their peril financially, because there's so many of those historically dogmatic against DSP, but props to them. Lingdorf was there. And I'll tell you one other one that's definite award winner is Dutch and Dutch. And when you look at all you get for that price and the performance, both objectively in the measurements and sound quality wise, 15 hertz in room. Now, who cares? Personally, I'd roll them off even before 15 hertz. I don't care if I get 15 hertz in room, but the capability of it to do that shows you for less than 20 grand all in, because it's an active speaker. You just add a source, plug them in. That speaker is phenomenal. And my thoughts are, look at your system cost, look at your system performance, compare it to Dutch and Dutch, and that's your benchmark. Are you getting better than that at that price point? Then you may want to relook at what you're spending, because one of my friends did. He has the Dutch and Dutch, and he thought he might be able to upgrade to the $30,000 Diptyques, which are actually a phenomenal speaker. It's not, I'm not saying this to downgrade the Diptyques. It's because the Diptyques are actually worthy at their price point of being considered. But when he benchmarked it against what he had, the Dutch and Dutch, the Dutch and Dutch was still better, especially in the dynamics area. There are some advantages in the mid-range stuff, but he went back to the Dutch and Dutch. So that's shame, with a great value speaker with high performance diptyque that many people can be considered end game. Dutch and Dutch still at a cheaper price all in is, for some people's taste, are beating it. So that's why I'm saying, benchmark yourself with that Dutch and Dutch performance. There's plenty of reviews. There's plenty of objective measurements. It's hard to beat. In my Airbnb, I hope to have them there. They're a Texas-based company. So I hope to have it where people can hear for themselves in my dedicated room in the future. Props to them. And like I said, Lingdorf and others that have always been on the front line of DSP, big props to them. The other one that I think may have a future customer, and I'm trying to get into Texas, is the Monitor Audio Hyphn. And I pretty much was the first one online, especially on YouTube, that debuted this speaker a few years ago. Fell in love with it and debuted it also, I think, at Cedia, where it was a static display. But then I had music clips in Toronto. I've seen it a few times since then. This was a great demo. It wasn't the best room, smaller room, noise floor, but both Doug and I were like, finally. And actually, first, one of the few rooms where I had a little bit of a goosebump moment, and that's something you can't control, you know, when you get goosebumps. So the quality of the song and all that plays a role in those things, but still very rare for me to hear at shows get goosebumps. The performance levels are just not possible in some of these rooms, but I got some with the Hyphn. It's a tremendously advanced speaker that belies its looks. It's a form follows function. There's a reason for it, and it behaves much like a true point source, where if I ever was going to go back to a true point source speaker, it needs to behave like a point source, not with drivers all over the place hitting me at different times, and then crossed over where it's locatable frequencies down at the bottom. And I'm going to do a special video. I did a presentation of why I love Poporis and open baffles so much. I'm going to go and do that in a separate video that's kind of outside of Axpona. It resonated with a lot of people. Oh, and there is a person that is buying the Poporis, the WR2s that were in Mike Sweck's room. He's selling his Martin Logan Neoliths, which are much more expensive. And I'm going to explain why I think that is the case, because I would feel the same way. And what I'm going to explain in that video will explain why. But getting back to point source box speakers, the Hyphn is truly behaving like a point source box. So you do get all of those benefits as well. And I think it's one that you must audition if it's in your price point. Another new speaker that very polarizing with the looks is Klaus's new speaker. I don't even think he gave the name, but people call it like a mausoleum, a temple, a morgue, whatever. It's got a very unique look, okay, guys? And I did not like the color combination he had. I think if he had a more stone-based color combination, it would look more like, you know, I think he's mixing Rome and Greece, you know, themes with his brand name and the speaker type. But I think it's cool. I think it's innovative, and that's what I like to feature for you guys, people that are thinking out the box. Heck, I got a barbecue amp sub. I mean, it's made of a separate power supply with a cowboy hat and a barbecue pit. The thing sounds phenomenal, and so did Klaus's speaker. But looks play a part. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But it'd be interesting to see how well he does with that speaker. Always fun going into his room. He's a master of setup in those small rooms. Placing the speakers super wide, they disappear. You don't get a lot of crosstalk. Yes, you do have that first reflection point, but he does a lot of little tricks that are very clever for a hotel room, and it pays off if you've ever gone into his room. Almost nobody says it sounds bad when they go into a Klaus room, an Odyssey room at the shows. So props to him. In fact, there were some even innovative things on the turntable analog front. I'm not a big turntable guy, but I was lucky enough to be one of the few in the world to hear the GMT1 turntable by Wilson Benesch when it was first released in Munich 2 years ago. I was front row center for that demo, first reveal. And I have a video on my channel with the entire, you must watch that video if you're a vinyl guy, because even over time, I think it's gravitated and it's going to go to Michael Fremer as his new reference. And it's deserving because I was also in a home with somebody that had the GMT1 Wilson Benesch and a $400,000 Air Force Tech-DOS. That's very rare to find those two turntables in the same home. That's like, you know, close to $1 million when you consider cartridge, a tone arm, everything involved in the electronics. He had that in the same room, and we A-B'd Michael Fremer's album on both. And let me tell you, the Wilson Benesch was so much better. I was actually looking at Fremer, JR, Bosclair was in there at the same time, and also Mark Doman. I was asking them for their opinion. I thought that the other one sounded broken in comparison. That's how big a difference it was. That Wilson Benesch turntable is among the best in the world. Hope to be doing a site visit of Wilson Benesch, facility tour of it in the summertime. That is super exciting to me. And yeah, full circle. 2 years ago, I debuted it. It's here now in America. So it might have still been new to a lot of people. First time getting to see that. That's definitely the best turntable I've seen and heard in certain comparisons. So props to them. Also in the turntable realm, this is the first time I spent video footage capturing Cat. very well-known turntable setup. I think she worked for Upscale Audio in California for many years doing their turntable setup. And I met her briefly in the Costa Mesa show in the past, but I never really featured her a lot. But this time we kept on running into each other, and she was running a lot of rooms, and she had a very good talk to show me about this Garrard turntable that caught my eye. I'm used to seeing Garrard turntables, but not one restored to this aesthetic level. And then it had a unique arm that they do only for that turntable. She walked through the whole thing, and she's great. Yes, a lot of people watch my videos because she's an attractive girl, but she knows her stuff. It's not just a case of booth babe type thing that you see at CES and others. She really knows her stuff. Definitely, you know, a true audiophile at the highest level. So great seeing her. She also got good dance moves, and I captured a few of those in my videos. And I'm sure many of you guys enjoyed that. Also, in the turntable realm, you really need to benchmark yourself, just like Dutch and Dutch, for speakers and you know, all-in-one system. You got to look at Michell for their turntable, their phono stage, the history, the pedigree, the looks. Man, when you put all that together, it's like, and they do everything soup to nuts pretty much. What can you do better at that price point? I really would, they check all the boxes for me if I'm looking for a turntable. So big props to them. And also that Nasty record cleaner, that's super quiet, very easy to use. That's been one of the complaints with some of my friends. They bought one of the more complex systems and they haven't even taken out the box. It's too much to do. This is mainly set it and forget it, get that base level of clean and a very quiet motor. I might be visiting their facility while I'm in Germany, so stay tuned for that. Now, outside of the show, let me just talk about a little more outside of the show after hours, because that's a lot of fun too. I went to Musical Artisans. It's a dealer in Skokie, Illinois, for their after show party Friday night, and that is a lot of fun. Some of the best pizza I've ever had. In fact, he ordered this pizza that it took a while to get delivered, but man, he said it's the one that when Anthony Bourdain was alive said is the best deep dish pizza in the world. And it'd be hard for me to argue based on what I tasted Friday night. Maybe I was just starving, but it was awesome. And the party was awesome. And I've got lots of footage from the rep from CH Precision was there. That is gear you really need to pay attention to. The pedigree of them way back to the Anagram DAC days. That's something I know about. Many people don't know about, but you should, and you will learn a little bit more about it when you watch my video on Musical Artisans. Also, Karma speakers. I know they had a room. I didn't get into the room at Axpona, but Karma at that dealership, you got to check out those speakers. Beautiful finish. Just a next level to the normal box speakers that we're used to in America in terms of fit and finish. Same thing with Marten. I'll talk about them in a second. But yeah, Karma, major props. And there is an outlet that is $5,000. And I featured it as a tweak that Rick Brown has at his place in a YouTube short I did a few weeks ago when I was there. Well, Chris Hesse was at this party. He's the guy that had the dealership with amazing listening rooms in Dallas. He's been selling those like crazy. People have been trying them and then buying them at $5,000. And he swears by it so much, he said, I'm going to send you one. And I can put it in my Airbnb and try it out. I'm like, okay. I probably wouldn't spend the money, but sometimes, you know, when people offer to send me something, I'll disclose it to you. So I'm disclosing it to you. That's what he said he's going to do. So I'm not buying that, but I'm going to test it out. And if it does something, I'll let you guys know. That's going to be something I will try because Rick Brown swears, but well, he's got it and he's going to try it. And the guys that I trust have said, okay, I'm going to try it. Also, just the innovativeness, getting back to that theme. I did not go into rooms that I normally see all the time. I did a few of those, and like Acora. Acora, actually, give them major props. Number one, the Tempest, beautiful. Probably the best looking Acora yet. The lights inside of that was just beautiful. But also, I told Val, and then you're going to hear it. I'll spoil a little bit for Carl when he when I release his video, his best of. It was the best I've ever heard of Acoras, and that's saying something because I go to every show and I see Acora every time. I probably have the most videos ever on Acora. That room, Axpona, sounded the best. I told that to Val, and he agreed. And him and Kevin were great. I got some footage of Kevin even dancing twice. They were very happy with the sound they got, and they definitely deserve an award for getting great sound in those big rooms at Axpona. But also, I didn't even get into rooms that I know would have been great, like Joseph Audio, and I didn't get into the Borison room. But these are all rooms that I cover so much. I only have so much bandwidth. And there was another one I wanted to get into, Broadman and Ari Sarada. I forgot that was there. My bandwidth is limited. So don't read anything into if I excluded a room or if I didn't go into a room. Nothing to read into it, nothing to deduce from that. This was strictly a bandwidth limited. And sometimes I would be about to go into a room, somebody catch me in the hall, wants to talk, and then next thing you know, I'm off to some other room. That's just how these shows have become crazy for me. And don't hesitate, though, to stop me, because I'd rather talk to you guys than do the footage. Now that's part of the fun for me, is meeting you guys. So don't be afraid to say hi. But that is part of the limiting factor now, is that I do a lot of talking in the hallways, too. But giving a shout out to some of the innovative ones, the Credo speaker is one that's, it's not that out of the ballpark, but it's not one that you normally see. But it's one of these ones with tons of drivers, very well integrated, very good sounding. And it's been at Axpona before, and I really appreciate that design and the sound quality they were getting. In terms of numbers of drivers, the Fourier transform, I talked about that. Not the best sounding yet, but the guy deserves so much credit for going down a path that nobody has gone down before. And let's just see how far he can take it to get it to sounding good. It's just an awesome experiment, and I've got firsthand knowledge. He's always emailing me. He's been doing it for 2 years, talking about this project, and I think that he deserves credit for putting all this effort into it. Maybe it doesn't turn into a marketable product, but major props for trying to push the envelope, do something new. And also another speaker that usually only shows up here and at Axpona, so I went into their room, is the Orchestrated. And before, they had speaker drivers like just spaced out all over instead of in a line. And I always wondered if it really was time aligned perfectly or not. The designs they came out with this year, I think, looked even better. It sounded even better. So big props to Orchestrated. That's a brand you don't see me focusing on at other shows, but I got into. I tried to do as many of those brands as possible. The macro awards I want to give, though, is to the brands and distributors that had multiple rooms, and especially that 12th floor. They had one night of the 12th floor. I even skipped dinner with Edgar and the Bach guys to do the 12th floor press event because it was so well done. Every room on that floor, from the Gishelli people, the Rythm distribution, Playback distribution, and Fidelity imports, who had not only the Wilson Benesch room and the Audiophile room and the big room, and they had all kinds of issues, and they had to navigate setting up. Not to go into all those, but let me tell you guys, if you have never set up a room at these shows, you have no idea how much hassle it is and how many things can go wrong. And for Fidelity and all these other distributors to have multiple rooms, goodness gracious, it is insane, guys. So major props, Gishelli, Fidelity Imports, Rythm, Playback distribution, and a very well coordinated, although people, I kind of broke the rules. I went around, but they set it up where groups could go into each room, get a presentation, get drinks from whatever country that room was featuring, and it was a great time. And so you got both music clips and to talk to the people that designed it. I jumped around, but I was very impressed, especially with the Marten room. I think that was the same one with the Garrard turntable. The finish on the Marten speakers, much like Karma, I mean, it's just a next level. Tidal, Karma, Marten, just a next level of Bach speaker to anything I've seen in America for the most part. It takes 6 months just to do that wood that's on the Marten speakers. He was telling us how many lacquer coats, how much they have to cure, all the things that go into the finish alone. It's a piece of art. And this is in our living rooms. This is a piece that people look at all the time when it's not playing and when it is playing. It's not like a car that's in a garage that you may be able to get away with a scratch or swirl marks or all this. You cannot with something in your house, or you shouldn't at least, especially at these price points. So when you buy a Marten speaker, not only does it sound good, top-notch drivers, it looks phenomenal. So big props to them. And really, the other one I want to give, everybody asks me, anything didn't sound good. Well, here's a good lesson for these shows, because like I said, most rooms didn't sound good at all, commensurate with the gear. I knew in every single room the gear was better than what I was hearing, and it was because of the room or the noise floor or whatever. Now, one room I know for a fact is 10 times better than what I heard, because what I heard, in fact, I didn't even release this video because I went into the Sourcepoint room with the new V10s with Andrew Jones. Now, I did release his presentation, but when I first went into the room, the volume was so loud, the noise floor was so loud, it was hurting my ears and actually sounding to me a little bit distorted. And I even was on camera. Maybe I'll put it at the end, the part that I didn't release. But I was like, oh, there's no way Andrew is in here playing it at this volume and sounding like this. And sure enough, I look around and he's outside talking to people outside. And then when I walked out, he grabbed me and he said, oh, I'm about to do a presentation. So I didn't upload that initial few minutes of my initial walkthrough because I wanted to capture it. When I came out, I just remembered that one part of his presentation. I forgot to release the other part. So it's not like I was trying to protect that room. I'll release it at the end of this video if you want to see it. But I was not happy with what I was hearing from the new V10. But that's a case where you don't want to blame the gear. It had to do with the room, the noise floor, the guy, whoever was playing at ridiculous volumes. It was not sounding all that great to me. But I know that speaker, the pedigree behind it, when it's listened to, if I ever get to Andrew Jones' studio, if it's in a dedicated room, my friends' rooms, it's going to have a performance level that, you know, like the 888 is one of the best speakers for the money, period. And now you're getting even more dynamics. Now, I would argue, based on what I saw and heard briefly, my anticipation is that you might be still better off with the 888 in most people's rooms and scenarios. That V10 is pretty big, and that's a lot of excursion that may not be needed. And it might be better to have subs. If you need that extra excursion and extra bass, it might be better to swarm it out than symmetrically load it in one cabinet and have it all in that one cabinet. I still may think, my intuition is that the 888 for a lot of people is still going to be the best option. But for people that want to headbang, that have a bigger room, that V10, I guarantee you it's going to sound a lot better than what you heard at the show, and I'd be very surprised if anybody found that room sounding really good. But I didn't get the sweet spot per se, and all these other variables are in that equation. So that's an important takeaway, not to blame the gear all the time at certain shows, and this is definitely one of them. But phenomenal time, phenomenally meeting all of you guys and new guys. You're always welcome in our friend group. Stay tuned for my Zoom where my friends are going to give their feedback on what they found the best. That'll be released soon. But I'm off to New Orleans. Then, like I said, Malaysia. I'll try to do it on the plane ride, get some stuff out to you guys. So I'll see you soon.